right, welcome to our public hearing for Bill 2025-1579. And today is April 23rd, 2023. I'm Bobby Wilson. I represent Council District 1, and I am the chair of the Land Use and Economic Development Committee. Before we get started with anything else, I just want to apologize that I'm taking this by virtual experience today because I'm just recovering from a foot surgery. So I apologize to the public if there's any slight delay whenever I call your name. And I wanted to have the clerk please read the bill for the bill relative to 2025-1579.
Bill 1579, Ordinance Amending and Supplementing the Pittsburgh Code of Ordinances, Title 9, Zoning, Article 2, Base Zoning Districts, Chapter 903, Residential Zoning Districts, to reduce required minimum lots.
Thank you. And for the record, I want to note that we are joined, I'm trying my best to see who's in chambers. We are joined by Council President Daniel Lavelle, and we are also joined by Council members Erica Strasburger, Barbara Warwick, and also Councilmember Deborah Gross, and also Councilmember Charlotte. And if I missed anyone, now I can see everyone with the big view here. All right, I think I was able to get everyone. And with that, we will start with the first speaker, but I want to remind everyone that there is 3 minutes to speak. And before you give your comments, whether they're in favor or not, or just comments, please state your name, first and last name for the record, also your neighborhood and or neighborhood affiliation or organization that you're affiliated with. With that, we will start with our first speaker, David Bringen. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, we're going to let planning go first. I apologize, David. We do have a presentation by planning, and I believe we have a couple members from planning in the audience.
You would introduce yourself?
Hello. We'll introduce ourselves. Andrew Dash. I'm the Deputy Director, Department of City Planning.
Corey Lehman, Chief Zoning Officer, Zoning Administrator, City Planning.
Principal Planner with the Department of City Planning.
Paul, if you want to
All right, thanks for coming.
Yep, thanks. And just go ahead with a short presentation. So this is Council Bill 2025-1579. This is primarily change to minimum lot sizes is what this bill is intended to do. So this minimum lot size reform bill, this comes from a recommendation from the 2022 housing needs assessment that was done with the Department of City Planning. They recommended a number of strategies to address barriers to new housing development within the city of Pittsburgh, to address housing affordability challenges. One of them was this minimum lot size requirements that we have in the zoning code, and which this bill is intending to address. And so what the existing regulations do are, in many cases, are severely restricting the ability to add new homes, new dwelling units to various residential zoning districts within the city of Pittsburgh. So what these requirements currently are doing in the zoning code is that they don't align, not only are they restricting new housing, but they don't even align with the historic built environment within most of our residential neighborhoods, which make up the majority of the city. And so what the Department of City Planning is proposing to do is to twofold, is to reduce minimum lot size requirements in the various residential subdistricts that exist in the city, and to remove entirely minimum lot size per unit requirements. And we'll get into a little bit further what those are doing. But what we wanted to allow happen is to be able to, in lots that currently do not meet the zoning requirements, they either need an administrator's exception or a variance, which is really just further prolonging the process, and oftentimes, particularly with a variance, not being able to be granted because of the various requirements. So what we did was look at minimum lot size requirements, and so we have 5 sub-districts within the city of Pittsburgh. We have very high density, moderate density, low density, and very low density. And each of these have their own minimum lot size requirements, which is basically you need so much lot area to be able to build a new unit on them. In the very high density, it's currently 1,200 square feet. In high density, it's 1,800 square feet. Moderate density, it's 3,200 square feet. Low density, 5,000 square feet. And very low density, 8,000 square feet. And what we worked with the GIS department to run this analysis, and we really appreciate their efforts in being able to provide this data for us to show what percentage of the existing lots within each of these residential subdistricts in the city are actually below these minimum requirements. And it's quite substantial. It ranges anywhere from over half of the lots in the low density residential subdistricts to about 18% in the high density subdistricts are non-conforming to the existing requirements. And so what this bill is proposing to do is to lower them, with the exception of in the very high density, is to remove the minimum lot size requirement entirely. So in the high density, we looked at lowering it to 1,200 square feet, which substantially reduces the amount of lots that are non-conforming. One thing to point out with these, particularly in the high density and very high density, is that some of these are actually condo lots. So really, many of them actually do conform. They're just essentially on the zoning map and on the tax maps showing up as little condo lots that are part of a larger common ground lot. But again, still down to 8% from 18%. In the moderate density, reducing it down to about a quarter from 40%. In low density, this is more than halving the percentage of lots that are non-conforming, and the very low density, again, reducing it by about half to 16%. Again, working with the GIS department, we have included, there's a link to this dashboard that shows throughout the city where these lots are. So the green lots are ones that are now would conform to the proposed changes to lot sizes. The ones that are in blue are ones that are still below those proposed minimums. Again, if you look at some areas such as Oakland or Shadyside, where we do have a lot of condo units, that where the blue shows up, but for the most part, in almost all neighborhoods, we see a significant reduction in the number of units that are not that would be conforming, whereas right now they're below the minimum lot size requirements. In the housing needs assessment, they also point out to minimum lot size per unit requirements, which which is essentially you have to have so much lot area per unit that you want to build. So they looked at here multi-unit residential, which really hinders the amount of units that you can actually build. It doesn't. The thing about the minimum lot size per unit is that you essentially can have the same building bulk. You can have in the high density residential, you can have a 9-story building, but it can still require a variance depending on how many units are actually in that building. And one area where this is not just in the multi-unit residential, but this is particularly becomes an issue in many of our 2-family and 3-family zoning districts, or R2 and R3 districts. What the minimum lot size per unit requirement is doing is that even though we allow by right, say a duplex, in many instances, such as the moderate density, you actually have to have more lot area than what the minimum lot size requirement is, which is almost making it effectively a single family residential district, even though on paper we permit duplexes by right. So that's just one example of how these restrictions, both minimum lot sizes and the minimum lot size per unit requirement, is significantly restricting the amount of homes that can be built throughout our residential districts. So to really summarize here, this chart really kind of summarizes it well. So again, to repeat, for very low density, we're going from the existing 8,000 square feet to 6,000 square feet. In the low density, it's going from 5,000 square feet to 3,000 square feet. Moderate density, 3,200 to 2,400. high density 1,800 square feet to 1,200, and very high density going from the existing 1,200 square feet to no minimum lot size requirement. And then again, just removing entirely these minimum lot size per unit requirements. And just to give you visual examples of what this means for Pittsburgh, it just wanting to highlight many of the examples that we see throughout the various neighborhoods in the city of Pittsburgh, whether you're on the north side, you're in some of the South Hills neighborhoods such as Brookline. These homes are really, I don't want to say they're insignificant, but it's these are very common throughout the city of Pittsburgh, and what we want to do is essentially re-legalize a lot of the lots and homes that really were built prior to when a lot of these restricted requirements came in after the fact. So, and just to highlight what this reform can do, again, we know land costs are a significant portion of the overall cost of constructing new housing, so reducing the amount of land that's needed per unit can help reduce the cost overall to build those new units. And as a result, given that the city, we're not expanding the boundary of the city, but we can increase the number of units that can be built within the city simply by reducing the amount of land required per unit. And by increasing the supply of housing, we can reduce the competition both between the city's renters, between new units that are built, as well as home buyers, depending on whether they are for rent or for sale homes. And again, we want to reduce the artificial scarcity that a lot of these requirements are making that, again, we've demonstrated don't match with the existing built environment within the city of Pittsburgh. And as a result of just being able to build at these higher densities, we also are promoting more walkability, more transit-friendly neighborhoods. And, lastly, to wrap up, just with the amount of vacant lots that we have in the city, these can be better, more efficiently repurposed to be new housing for residents of the city. And we've demonstrated the city of Houston, which is, famously doesn't have a zoning code, but it has many land use regulations, one of them being a minimum lot size requirement. They reduced that significantly back in 1998 in the kind of inner core of the city, and later expanding it to cover most of the city in 2013. And as a result of that, they've had significant home building that's been able to keep costs down despite having significant population growth. Within the last census, the city had a 10% population increase, and despite that, they still were able to have rent growth that was significantly below the national average for rent growth, and were able to build new homes that were able to be affordable to of households making right around the area median income in that city. So.
And I'll just walk through the process of how we got here. As Paul had noted, the housing needs assessment was completed in 2022. Did have minimum lot size as one of the 5 under the soft density and infill by right recommendation from the city's housing needs assessment. From that, the department worked to draft a series of, a couple of zoning amendments, one being a text amendment that covered accessory dwelling units, parking reform, and inclusionary zoning in addition to minimum lot size. This was done partially in conjunction with a number of council members, including on the minimum lot size work, Councilwoman Warwick, on the parking, trying to align and actually expanding that a little bit more broadly with some of the work that Councilperson Strasburger's office was doing, with kind of the broad intention of, as Paul noted, being able to increase supply, both market rate for many of the reasons that Paul noted, as well as opportunities for affordable housing, restricted affordable housing, for people who cannot afford housing in the city presently. With this package of much larger amendments that included minimum lot size reform as a part of it, the city, through the Department of City Planning, did a series of outreach over kind of late 2024 and early 2025. There are 20 different community meetings that are on the screen presently that cover one aspect of that outreach. And then additionally, in the development of these amendments, including minimum lot size, There were meetings with city council, with advocates and developers as a part of this work. And so those are shown on the screen. Once all of that had concluded and, we had this kind of series of amendments developed, the larger package of housing needs assessment text amendments, were presented to the Planning Commission through multiple briefings in late 2024. There was a public hearing held in January of this year where the Planning Commission recommended, with conditions, approval of the housing needs assessment text amendments. This council bill, again, being specifically around the minimum lot size reform language, did separate that out from the larger text amendment. None of the conditions in that Planning Commission approval were referring to the minimum lot size provisions. So just to, to try to be clear, that, obviously with city planning staff, kind of writing these amendments and the Planning Commission through its recommendation, not recommending its approval without any conditions, that they are supportive of the changes that are in this bill. And obviously the fact that this is implementation of a part of one of the land use recommendations from the housing needs assessment is something that is, part of work that is important to the department. And obviously beyond this work, there is a lot more work to be done with the remainder of the housing needs assessment text amendment bill, that has been referred to City Council, Bill 2025-1545. The map amendment bill, which I kind of glossed over in a previous slide, but is around transit-oriented development, which is presently, something that is held at Planning Commission while we're doing some further study. And then other land use recommendations from the housing needs assessment that are drafted by city planning. So obviously look forward to working with, city council and others in this room, amongst a much broader coalition to try to move a lot of this broader work around housing and changes to our zoning and land use regulations around that. So with that, thank you.
All right, great. Thank you for that great presentation. And at this time, we will move on to our speakers. And I'll just say the notes again on public speaking. You have 3 minutes to speak, and please state your first and last name for the record, and also the neighborhood and/or the neighborhood organization or affiliation you have with the neighborhood before you give your comments. 3 minutes to speak. And our first speaker is David Bringen. And sorry for that mix-up, David.
No problem. Good afternoon. My name is Dave Bringen. I'm the Executive Director of Lawrenceville United. We're a membership organization of over 900 Lawrenceville residents, and our mission is to improve and protect the quality of life for all Lawrenceville residents. Our organization supports the entire zoning package under the implementing the housing needs assessment amendments, including the proposed reforms to minimum lot sizes. This specific amendment is a common sense solution to allowing more housing types in more neighborhoods, especially those that are more affordable, more modestly sized, and look more like the ones around them. Lawrenceville is proudly on the National Registry of Historic Places, yet our zoning code today doesn't allow many of the homes that make up that historic designation to be built. Over my life, I myself have lived in 6 pretty standard old row homes in Lawrenceville, and half of them don't meet our current minimum lot size requirements. Had our current zoning code been followed, I or someone else may not have had the chance to live in Lawrenceville. Most importantly, the proposed minimum lot size reform would also help with our affordability challenges. Almost all of the affordable community land trust homes built in Lawrenceville have needed variances for minimum lot size, despite being really thoughtfully designed. These trips to the zoning board create uncertainty and higher costs for the community land trust, which are already very difficult to pull off, and when we need so many more homeownership opportunities for working class families in our neighborhood. As another concrete example, in September, we had a developer reach out to us about a vacant parcel stretching from one of our streets to our alleyways. Rather than building one larger luxury home on the street front, they offered to subdivide and build 2 more modestly sized units, one on the street, one on the alleyway, which already has a lot of housing on it. Building 2 units would offer a lot of benefits. The homes would each be significantly more affordable while still increasing the tax revenue for the city more than just one expensive home. The homes would be more climate friendly and look more like the housing around them, and we would get more neighbors to help care for the park across the street, support our local business district, use our bus system, and hopefully become members of Lawrenceville United. While the benefits to everyone are better with 2 units, our zoning code currently prohibits it, which speaks to why this minimum lot size reform is necessary, so I commend Councilmember Warwick and everyone else who worked on this ordinance. All this said, as a member of the Forging PGH working group under Mayor Peduto that spent a lot of time supporting the updated housing needs assessment across 2 administrations, I want to stress that this entire zoning package is critically important, and City Council should follow the advice of the Forging PGH working group, the housing needs assessment, the Planning Commission, as well as the hundreds of people who participated in the 11-hour hearing, and carefully consider but expeditiously move the entire package forward together, including with citywide inclusionary zoning. These recommendations started under the previous mayor. Citywide IZ was recommended by the Affordable Housing Task Force that City Council commissioned almost a decade ago. Specific legislation from this package has been publicly available for the better part of a year and was overwhelmingly recommended by Planning Commission 3 months ago. Zoning is always going to be controversial and difficult, but we need to act. We have a housing crisis, and we need comprehensive solutions to allow more housing, increase our tax base, and provide housing opportunities for everyone in each of our 90 neighborhoods. So please don't delay further, and please take up this entire zoning package and give it the attention it deserves. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Our next speaker is John Hanrahan.
Good afternoon. My name is John Hanrahan. I live in Fineview in Council District 1. I am here first and foremost out of pure selfishness. I love my home. I love it dearly. My home sits on a lot that is 1,750 square feet in a high density district. If, God forbid, my home were to burn down for want of 50 square feet, which is probably the size of this table, I could not rebuild my home because of the current lot size minimums. This bill is a compromise, though. There are homes in Fineview and elsewhere in the city that we have lost, that once this bill passes, we will still not be able to rebuild because there will still be lot size minimums. So I appreciate the compromise being struck here. And yet I also look forward to the hearing we'll have 10, 20 years from now when we further liberalize our lot size minimums. And speaking of hearings that I look forward to in the future, I earnestly look forward to the hearings that we are going to hold on the 2 IZ bills, as well as accessory dwelling units, parking minimums, and whatever else, I'm forgetting it. But I'm looking forward to the hearing. Thank you all.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Madeline McGrady.
Hi, Council. I'm Maddie McGrady. I'm a renter in Highland Park, a social worker, and I'm speaking today on behalf of the Human Rights City Alliance. We're a grassroots network of individuals, groups, and organizations advocating for a human rights-based approach to policy in Pittsburgh. We support minimum lot size reform. As Dave said, it's a common sense step that will support higher density and potentially more affordable housing. However, the minimum lot size reform alone is not going to be enough. We need the entire zoning text amendments package in order to work together and take a comprehensive approach and ensure that housing that is preserved and new housing that is developed meets the needs of Pittsburghers across the income spectrum. And we need you, City Council, to take action on the full package rather than taking a piecemeal approach. We need a comprehensive approach, and the mayor's package provides that. As we've heard, the recommendations emerged from the 2022 Housing Needs Assessment, which was unanimously recommended by Planning Commission 3 months ago after 11 hours of public testimony. It's time to stop delaying. It's time to schedule a public hearing and vote down Councilman Charlin's enhanced inclusionary zoning. It's time to schedule public hearings on the entire inclusionary, the entire suite of bills, including the inclusionary zoning. And I just want to add, the federal administration's approach right now, the divestment from housing services resources, is going to make the housing crisis so much worse, especially for the people who are most vulnerable. And the housing needs assessment is clear that is residents making 30% AMI and below. So I hope the urgency of this problem is not lost on you. We need to take action now that will withstand the challenges that are coming, and that means taking a comprehensive approach, which the mayor's package does. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Christopher Beam.
Good afternoon, members of council. My name is Christopher Beam, a resident of Bloomfield. We're in the midst of a housing crisis here in Pittsburgh. We need housing policy reforms like this proposed reduction in minimum lot size requirements, and we need them yesterday. I urge you to pass this as soon as humanly possible so that we might stop making new housing jump through hoops at the Zoning Board of Adjustment for homes that fit our neighborhood's context. The 2022 Housing Needs Assessment says that 80% of parcels in very high zones are smaller than the 1,200 square foot minimum, and my own experience confirms this. I'm a resident of Bloomfield in the portion of the neighborhood that is zoned R2 VH. Today, that means that you can build duplexes by right, but you must have a parcel of land that measures at least 1,200 square feet, or building both a single family home or duplex would require a variance. With the proposed minimum lot size reforms, every parcel in my section of the neighborhood would suddenly become developable again, allowing more homes to get built, more neighbors to live here, supporting our local businesses. I want to stress how stupid it ever was that the city would downzone Pittsburgh neighborhoods so that existing homes would be illegal to build. My home is built on a parcel that is exactly 1,200 square feet, but on just my street alone, there are 10 homes built on parcels that are even smaller than mine, which would currently be illegal. More than that, several homes on my street are multifamily, so the minimum lot size per unit requirements add even more barriers to recreating my neighborhood. I want to thank Councilors Wilson, Warwick, and Charland for working on this policy and expediting it through council. I urge the rest of council to vote in favor of reducing minimum lot sizes, and I urge you to continue pushing for more reforms to reduce the cost of housing for all Pittsburghers, like reducing setback requirements, eliminating parking requirements, and most importantly, allowing multifamily residential housing in all residential zones of Pittsburgh. As a reminder, almost all new housing in Pittsburgh is multifamily, and yet it is segregated to just a few neighborhoods or portions of neighborhoods that allow apartments and condos, a mere 23% of our city. It was the first recommendation reported in the 2022 Housing Needs Assessment and has been sidelined for years. Please make multifamily housing legal in all of Pittsburgh. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dimitri Black.
Hello, my name is Dimitri Black, and I live in Squirrel Hill South, District 5. My family and I chose Squirrel Hill because of the many amenities within walking distance. I have 2 grocery stores, many restaurants, several specialty shops, preschools, daycares, a pharmacy, doctors, dentists, and a post office, all within a 10-minute walk of my home. What makes all of this possible is that because my neighborhood was built mostly before zoning and before cars were a necessity, it has a higher density than areas that were designed to force a car-dependent lifestyle. Many people raising children want to live in a neighborhood like mine. The market prices of real estate tell you that. However, because of increasing urban housing costs, that is out of reach for too many families. This bill to reform minimum lot sizes in the city goes a long way to make more density in my neighborhood and other neighborhoods possible. Density supports local businesses, it supports schools, and it supports public transit. But most compellingly, this bill partially legalizes neighborhoods like mine that could not be built today. Thank you to the city council members who introduced this bill, and thank you to those who will vote in its favor eventually. I do hope that this is the first of many bills that will fully legalize Pittsburgh neighborhoods and build the city of the future that will draw in more families to make dynamic and appealing neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Amy Zase.
Hi, good afternoon, Council. Thank you for your time today. My name is Amy Zase. I recently purchased my first home in the Beachview neighborhood. I'm here speaking in support of the minimum lot size reform legislation, Ordinance 2025-1579. I want to thank Council members Wilson, Warwick, and Charland for sponsoring the bill. Like the rest of the nation and others before me have said, Pittsburgh is in a housing crisis. Minimum lot size rules contribute to our housing shortage by effectively banning homes on thousands of lots across the city. These rules don't reflect how our neighborhoods were built, Many of our most loved homes today wouldn't be possible to rebuild. For example, when I was shopping for my home in Beachview, I saw several illegal duplex conversions listed for sale. Beachview has great transit access and is already fairly dense, but attached housing like those existing duplexes aren't legal by current zoning rules. A simple reform, such as this ordinance, would allow for homes like those to be brought into a conforming use. The proposal before you is a simple, effective step to make denser housing possible. It legalizes much of what is already existing today in our legacy housing stock. In order to build new housing on existing lots, we must pass this reform. Density promotes transit and walkability in our neighborhoods. I urge you to pass this and bring up the other reforms as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Caleb Grabowski.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Caleb Grabowski. I live in Arlington with my fiance. I'm here to voice my support for reducing the minimum lot size requirement. This change is important to me personally because my home, which has stood safely and harmoniously within the neighborhood of Arlington for years, I think it was built in like the 30s, which is insane. It was built on a 4,500 square foot lot. Under the current code, it is considered non-conforming, needing 5,000 square foot. The current law states that my fiance and I should not live there, which I find deeply troubling. The proposed bill would bring that requirement down to 3,000 square feet, making my home perfectly conforming and legal. More importantly, on my street, there are 2 empty lots where a home once stood, but tragically burned down and partially burned down the next house. Due to the square foot requirement, rebuilding a duplex or other similar style of building or housing is impossible on these parcels. These vacant lots now sit unused, and that's a missed opportunity, not just for the block, but for the community as a whole. I believe this zoning change would better reflect the real character and history of our neighborhood. It would bring homes like mine into compliance and allows those vacant lots to be restored in a way that fits the existing community fabric and potentially promote gentle housing density. I respectfully urge the council to support this adjustment.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nicholas Rizzio.
All right, good afternoon, members of the council. My name is Nick Rizzio, and I'm a resident of downtown Pittsburgh. I'm speaking today on behalf of Pro Housing Pittsburgh, an organization that advocates for housing abundance and affordability in our great city. Anyone who has recently tried to buy or rent a home in Pittsburgh knows that there are simply not enough housing options available in our city. Cutthroat competition for limited homes has pushed prices out of reach for many of our city's residents, and especially for our most vulnerable neighbors. Pro Housing Pittsburgh strongly supports today's proposed legislation, Bill 1579, which will uniformly reduce minimum lot size requirements and unlock more affordable housing opportunities all across our city. It is hard to overstate how difficult it is to build more housing in Pittsburgh under our current minimum lot size rules. Our city forbids new homes from being built if the plot of land is not large enough. We estimate that in most residential districts in our city, over half of these several thousand residential lots currently cannot legally support any homes at all because of minimum lot sizes. The only reason why people can still live in these homes is because they were built long before these restrictive codes came into effect. If you knocked one of these buildings down and tried to build it today, you would not be allowed. Let me give you an example from my personal experience. Dover Gables is a modest townhome development next to Negley Station. It was one of the first places I checked when I was searching for apartments in Pittsburgh. As it turns out, Dover Gables, which is only 3 stories tall, does not comply with our minimum lot size law. A small, modest 3-story townhome development with 2 courtyards right next to rapid transit and a block away from a humongous 15-story high-rise is somehow illegal under our current zoning law. It is clearly time for change. We urge City Council to vote in favor of Bill 1579 and make it easier to build more homes on smaller lots in Pittsburgh. We would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Councilwoman Warwick for drafting this legislation and considering our input, Councilman Wilson for introducing it, and Councilpeople Charland and Warwick for co-sponsoring it. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Morgan Shaw.
Good afternoon, Council. My name is Morgan Shaw. I live in Shadyside at 260 Shady. I'm here to speak in favor of the minimum lot size reform bill. One of the best things about Pittsburgh, I've lived in Pittsburgh about 4 years now. Unfortunately, I am moving to Memphis, Tennessee next month, so this might be one of the last times I get to speak to you guys. But I've made an effort to come here today because I think this is one of the most important things that we can do to make housing more affordable in the city of Pittsburgh. Right now, we've basically made it illegal to build affordable housing, and especially when you consider the fact that minimum lot sizes were invented quite literally to segregate our cities. The lots, land is one of the most expensive pieces of any building, and when you require a certain amount of land, you essentially put a floor at how affordable that housing can be. By getting rid of that minimum lot size, you are undoing the racial segregation that we placed onto our city. So I really urge you to pass this quickly. We've already wasted too much time, and we've pushed too many of our neighbors, especially neighbors of color, especially our black neighbors, out of the city by forcing people to build houses on lots that are bigger than they need. So this is just one step to making these changes, or making the housing more affordable for everyone who wants to live here. And that's not just for me, that's for everyone who lives here right now. That's for everyone who wants to live here in the future. Again, I've loved living in the city. I'm sad to leave it. I'm excited for my new opportunities, but what I can tell you as somebody who's only lived here for a little bit of time is that Pittsburgh is a very special place, and it's not in small part because of how it looks and how it's built. Getting rid of the minimum lot size requirement would allow us to meet the needs and the desire to live here in this great city. So please pass this bill as quick as you can. If you get it done by May 14th, it would be great. But but either way, I'm excited to look back and check the news and everything like that to see that it's passed. I appreciate your time, and thank you for doing everything that you are with zoning right now. It's really awesome to leave behind a city moving in the right direction, and I hope that you guys continue that track. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bob Malakoff.
I'm Bob Malakoff from Allegheny West. Bill 1579 is Council's next effort to take a chainsaw to the zoning ordinance and to Pittsburgh neighborhoods in the name of affordable housing. The population of the city is less than half of what it once was, but we are told that we should have major increases in density everywhere in the city. Some neighborhoods need major development. In those cases, some rezoning would be helpful. But that should be the decision between city planning and the residents. In other neighborhoods, the same changes would not be helpful and could be detrimental. A while ago, a developer in Fineview wanted to build some townhouses on an R1D zone. Rather than work with the residents to rezone the area, they requested variances from the Board of Adjustment. When board approval was overturned by the courts, they went crying to City Council to basically remove the R1 detached category throughout the city. I'm not aware of any townhouses that are currently being built in Fineview, and I wonder how many attached houses have been built in R1D zones anywhere in the city. Council and planning have been influenced by the anti-zoning radicals from San Francisco and elsewhere with the ridiculous name of YIMBY, Yes in My Backyard. Their policy is essentially build anything anywhere. Not a good idea for Pittsburgh. Rather than helping the people to provide affordable housing, the primary beneficiaries of this policy would be the people whom the mayor refers to as predatory landlords and the worst developers. I frequently hear, and I'm tired of hearing, the big lie that it is difficult or impossible to rebuild a house that was demolished on the same site under the current zoning ordinance. In cases where setback requirements and required lot sizes are a hardship or an impossibility, variances are routinely granted. Some may argue that variances are granted without demonstration of hardship. In addition, I would refer people to section 92501C, single unit dwelling exemptions. You know, this talk about illegal housing is ridiculous. I'm concerned about the very high density single family residential zones. 1,200 square foot lots are commonly there. These areas are already very crowded, so what are you planning to do? Eliminate any minimum lot size standards so the neighborhoods could become even more crowded? In New York, they used to call them tenements. Thanks a lot. This ordinance and the others that are planned will have unintended consequences. I may be too stubborn to move, but there are many city residents who are tired of dealing with various problems in Pittsburgh. This might be the last straw to encourage them to move to a suburb that cares about its residents. Is it your plan to downgrade the quality of life in our neighborhoods to...
Thank you. Our next speaker is Neil Desai. Neil, are you online?
Does not look like it.
Okay, we will move on. Our next speaker is Connor Dickey.
Hello, I'm Connor Dickey. I live on Eighton Street in the Spring Hill neighborhood. My home is lined with row homes with no setbacks. Each of these homes sits on a lot that is extra long in the back. If you look at a satellite view, the homes take up just half of the lot. We also have a street out back that serves these backyards and some other homes on the other side. The lots are zoned R1A high density. My home's lot is listed on the county website as 2,266 square feet, which means that even under the new rules, 1,200 square feet for high density, it's too small to be split into two lots. The same is true for my neighbors up and down the street. If the limit was just a little bit lower, we could double the housing allowed on my street overnight. I bring this up to highlight how arbitrary these minimums are and prevent new housing. My street is on the number 6 bus line. My house is almost perfectly halfway between bus stops, meaning there's a stop just a few hundred feet in each direction. This is exactly the kind of place that we should be encouraging more residents to live car-free, climate-friendly lives in our city. More selfishly, I'm sick of yard work. I like my house, but I would happily turn this extra space over to new neighbors if I could. We don't need a yard, and we might consider downsizing and moving out if nothing changes. Minimum lot sizes should not exist. As others have noted in the past, lot size minimums were a deliberate floor on home ownership that was used to prevent people from home ownership on the basis of class or race. For me, this is about freedom. Freedom to own a home of the size that you prefer, even if that's small. Freedom from maintaining extra land you don't want or need. Minimum lot sizes run counter to our city's goal of a climate-friendly, vibrant, walkable city. We should let people who want to live in smaller, denser neighborhoods do that. Unfortunately, my neighborhood, this bill doesn't quite go far enough to unlock more housing, but still, this legislation is a step in the right direction to removing unnecessary barriers to homeownership in our city. Thank you, members of council, Wilson, Charland, and Warwick, for sponsoring this legislation and moving it through the process. I'm especially pleased to see this moving separately from the omnibus, and I hope other non-controversial reforms in the omnibus can also be moved separately. I urge council to pass this reform and to reduce lot size minimums further in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Marcia Bandis.
Good afternoon. Yes, my name is Marcia Bandes. Good day, all, and good day, Councilwoman Erica Strasburger. I'm here today to speak about the need to move forward with minimum lot sizes, sensible reduced parking restrictions to go along with those, and inclusionary zoning. In order for Pittsburgh to grow economically, our families, and with them our workforce, need to have good quality, truly affordable housing. With over 10,000 people forced out of the city due to rising housing costs, and now due to cuts in public transit, they will no longer be able to get to jobs located in Pittsburgh. And of course, as many of you follow the news, with families moving out of Pittsburgh, our schools are suffering also. We will decay as a city without neighborhood schools and a deep and wide workforce skill set. Changes to minimum lot sizes is one necessary solution, as long as parking restrictions are evaluated depending upon street or driveway parking availability. I keep hearing that developers don't like inclusionary zoning, that the profit isn't there. They prefer high-rent neighborhoods like Lawrenceville. I find it difficult to believe that 2 affordable units out of 20 is a deal breaker, unless we let it be. Inclusionary zoning is a common sense step to ensure that Pittsburghers are no longer excluded from such amenities as easy access to schools, grocery stores, jobs, and in some cases, more regular public transportation on the basis of race or income. Though not the end-all, minimum lot sizes and inclusionary zoning in all neighborhoods are 2 critical tools to help address this shortage and also provide an opportunity to move towards more integrated neighborhoods. These 2 affordable housing solutions will bring us 2 steps closer to being a more livable city. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Chris Rossela.
Good afternoon, members of council. My name is Chris Rosselo, Policy Director at Pittsburgh Community Reinvestment Group and resident of the Spring Garden neighborhood in the north side. PCRG is a nonprofit, membership-based organization with members throughout the city of Pittsburgh. Let me be clear, we support the intent behind reducing minimum lot sizes. It's a good policy on its own, one that can increase housing diversity and affordability by allowing for more compact, attainable homes in our city. But introducing this reform in isolation, outside the broader zoning amendment package that was positively recommended by the City Planning Commission in January after over 10 hours of public testimony, is a mistake. The comprehensive zoning package was designed to work as a cohesive unit. Each piece, whether it's minimum lot size, parking reform, or inclusionary zoning, complements the others. Pulling one piece disrupts the balance and risks political fatigue or loss of momentum for the other necessary reforms we all are advocating for today. Neighborhood organizations, real estate developers, city government, and other stakeholders have been working towards modernizing our outdated zoning code for years. The Pittsburgh Housing Needs Assessment made it very clear we need bold, integrated action, not piecemeal fixes that leave the larger picture behind. I urge council to reconsider moving this legislation forward on its own. Let's stick to the original path, pass the Housing Needs Assessment zoning amendments in full as intended, and give our communities the comprehensive, forward-thinking policies they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Candace Kane.
Good afternoon. My name is Candace Kane and I live in Fineview. I asked council not to move forward with the zoning amendment to reduce the minimum lot size throughout the city for 2 reasons. First, why are we carving out one zoning ordinance to be amended during a $6 million comprehensive plan? Second, if council is going to carve out an area for attention, I ask you to focus on regulating short-term rentals. Fineview is in the middle of an Airbnb crisis. A week or so ago, police were called to 2 of the 7 Airbnbs on Meadville Street. The late night noise, trash, transients coming and going, and extra cars are depriving existing residents of their quality of life and destabilizing our neighborhood. We learned that one Airbnb is now renting out single locked bedrooms and is a rooming house with no oversight. Even though the city's rental registration ordinance has been challenged in court, why wait to regulate Airbnbs? Short-term rentals are a different industry than long-term rentals. The city could right now require Airbnbs to have a license or a permit, just as other local municipalities have done, and make rules. Neighbors can provide you with the location of Airbnbs. And short-term rentals with absentee owners do not belong in residential neighborhoods. Pittsburgh could immediately gain at least 20 additional houses in Fineview by barring absentee owner Airbnbs in residential districts. In addition, the planning department states that we should look to Houston, Texas as a successful example of reducing minimum lot size. But Pittsburgh cannot be compared to the largest city in Texas. Houston's lots were huge, 5,000 square feet, and led to sprawl. Plus, Houston allows its neighbors to opt out of the new smaller minimum lot size and keep their larger lots. No such opt-out provision is in Pittsburgh's ordinance. Blanket-style upzoning for higher density leads to gentrification in areas seeing investment speculation, such as Fineview. Why not include an opt-out provision? Most houses in Fineview are zoned high density. The lots are already small, 1,800 square feet, typically just 20 feet wide. Notably, another Texas city, Austin, reduced its minimum lot size from 5,750 square feet to 1,800 square feet, the same size as Pittsburgh's current high-density minimum lot size. We do not need smaller lots in Pittsburgh's dense neighborhoods to have more affordable housing. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. Instead, we need subsidies of all types and homeowner grants to help with maintenance. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mallory Branken.
Hello, my name is Mallory. I live in Upper Lawrenceville on Carnegie Street. I don't support minimum lot size being separated from the entire zoning package legislation. Picking and choosing what bits of the package you want is playing politics and picking winners at the expense of everyone else. I also want a smaller minimum lot size, and I want the costs to lessen the costs and burden of developing housing in Pittsburgh. I want this council to pass legislation that puts city zoning code back in line with the policy that allowed this city to be built in the first place. I'm not a city planning expert, and I don't need the council to be planning and building experts either. You weren't elected because you know everything. Part of being a good leader is relying on experts. This zoning package is comprehensive. This package will help us build a healthy city for everyone, not just benefiting builders' short-term profit margins. If you break up the zoning package, you will undermine the benefits that it could have for the future of the city. Private developers are not going to think about the long term. They will not consider how to develop the city in a way that keeps it affordable and nice to live in. Thinking ahead, thinking beyond profit and short-term gains is the responsibility of our government officials. If you break apart the zoning package and pick and choose just the parts you like, you are working against the housing needs assessment, you're discarding the recommendation of planning experts, and you're wasting my tax dollars by ignoring the research that informed that legislation. Pittsburgh is an amazing city to live in because of its walkability and density. Pittsburgh was built before the car, and you can feel it when you walk around. Subsequent policies that have prioritized cars above people have led to parts of the city being demolished to make more and more room for cars, less space for housing, and less space for people. I want you to remove minimum lot sizes, remove mandatory parking minimums, allow inclusionary zoning citywide so that affordable housing can be found in more neighborhoods. And I need you to stop delaying on passing zoning reform. Please pass the entire zoning package.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jack Billings.
My name is Jack Billings. I live in Squirrel Hill in Councilperson Erica Strasburger's district. I am strongly in favor of Bill 2025-1579, the bill to reduce minimum required lot sizes in residential zoning. This bill will eliminate minimum lot sizes per unit for all residential density subdistricts. It will eliminate minimum lot sizes for very high density subdistricts. It will reduce minimum lot sizes for very low, medium, and high density subdistricts. This is good. The minimum lot sizes requirement makes it harder to build housing in the city of Pittsburgh. Making it harder to build housing constrains supply, pushes up rents, and drives people into homelessness. Reducing or eliminating these requirements allows more supply, pushing down rents, and decreasing homelessness. I want to thank Councilman Wilson, Councilmember Sharland, and Councilmember Warwick for sponsoring this bill. I especially want to thank Councilmember Warwick
for setting up a meeting last year on May 22nd between her Chief of Staff, Lauren Bilko, David Vatz, and myself to discuss an earlier version of this bill that would only reduce minimum lot sizes for medium, high, and very high density subdistricts. If we only eliminate minimum lot sizes of higher density subdistricts, we exacerbate the exclusionary effects of minimum lot sizes in lower density subdistricts. I am pleased that after our discussion, the legislation was expanded to reduce minimum lot sizes for very low and low subdistricts as well. However, I want to emphasize that this bill does not go far enough. Minimum lot sizes have long been used as an exclusionary tool to keep housing prices artificially high and to discriminate against the poorer members of our society. They were initially used as a substitute for explicitly racially segregationist language in zoning after the Supreme Court ruled in 1917, Buchanan versus Worley, that such explicit racial language was unconstitutional. For more on this background, please see The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. Minimum lot sizes were not regulated by the city of Pittsburgh until 1923. Half of our housing supply is pre-World War II. Any inclusion of minimum lot sizes whatsoever in the zoning code is a racist holdover and ought to be expunged. This bill reduces some minimum lot sizes and eliminates others. That's a step in the right direction, but we ought to go the distance and eliminate minimum lot sizes altogether. There are, for example, many lots currently zoned residential multifamily moderate density that are 45 feet by 20 feet, 900 square feet. Even with this bill, you still can't build on those lots. Many of these lots are on the sites of former row houses and apartment buildings in the Hill District that have since been torn down. As long as minimum lot sizes remain in place, we are prohibiting rebuilding the housing that used to be there. The bill does take one step in the wrong direction. It introduces a height maximum of 180 feet in residential multifamily, very high density subdistricts, but even with that flaw, and even though it doesn't go the distance, I'm in favor of this bill. Please eliminate all minimum lot sizes in the future. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Masterson.
Hello, my name is Mark Masterson. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm a resident of Observatory Hill in Councilman Wilson's district that's on Pittsburgh's north side. I've also served as a member of the Affordable Housing Task Force a decade ago, and I served on the Housing Opportunity Fund Advisory Board until last year. I've been here long enough to witness the powerful transformations of some of our neighborhoods. Vacant buildings brought back to life, new investment, and a stronger tax base. But I've also watched with real heartbreak as neighbors who helped rebuild these neighborhoods were pushed out and priced out by the places that they'd called home for decades. I'm here because I believe that every Pittsburgh, rich or poor, deserves a safe, affordable place to live with dignity. But right now, that basic right is slipping further and further out of reach. We're in the middle of an affordable housing crisis, and it's hitting our lowest income households the hardest, and they are being displaced at an alarming rate. Reforming minimum lot sizes is a good idea, but it needs to be passed as part of the comprehensive affordable housing zoning package recommended by the City Planning Commission, not cherry-picked to suit developers. Inclusionary zoning is vital, and stripping it out and pulling this piece out of it weakens the whole approach. We need to be bold. We need not be piecemeal. If we go piecemeal, you're going to have some real unintended consequences that is going to put even more pressure on affordable housing supply in the city by allowing development of even more short-term rentals. Pittsburgh can't afford to wait any longer. We've had 7 months of delays here. This is something that was recommended a decade ago by the Affordable Housing Task Force. Now is the time for City Council to act and to schedule hearings and to reject the so-called enhanced inclusionary zoning and pass the full package. This is about economic justice, and it's about giving every Pittsburgher a real chance to thrive right here in their own neighborhoods. So let's make sure that our city's growth is shared equitably, intentionally, and boldly. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Next speaker is Vlad Kaplan.
Hey, can you hear me? Is that a yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, members of City Council. My name is Vlad Kaplan. I live in East Liberty. I'm here to speak in support of the proposed minimum lot size reform. I want to thank Council members Wilson, Warwick, and Charlin for sponsoring this bill. We've been talking about how bad our zoning is for years, and we're finally starting to see some action. Last year, you passed Councilman Wilson's bill that let houses touch on many lots where they weren't allowed to before, and now you've really stepped it up with this broader citywide zoning reform. I think the planning staff pretty much nailed it in their presentation, so I'll be brief in singing its praises, but this legislation allows for smaller homes on small lots, creating opportunities for building starter homes. It makes a bunch of idle land usable and ready to build homes on. It supports higher density neighborhoods from single family homes to small apartment buildings, which will give Pittsburghers more opportunities to live near jobs, transit, shopping, and amenities. Here in East Liberty, we're a walkable, bikeable, and well-connected neighborhood, but our town center still has some empty storefronts waiting to be filled. More people in the neighborhood could really light up our commercial center and support the local economy. More available homes give renters and home buyers leverage in picking where they want to live and will help with housing affordability. I want to thank the council for its initiative in moving this forward. There's a world where zoning reform got tabled until the end of a years-long comprehensive plan process, even with the community meetings that have already happened and all the work that the planning department has already done. We need more homes as soon as possible, and this common sense reform will help that happen. Homes aren't built in a day, and our housing shortage is both real and urgent. I thank you for getting the ball rolling. And I thank you for splitting this legislation from the big package of bills and considering it separately. I know some of you didn't love doing that, but you did it anyway because Pittsburgh needs this. I look forward to seeing the parking reform, transit-oriented development, and granny flat legislation on your agenda. Go Pittsburgh, go Pens. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Nick Petrillo.
Thank you, Councilman Wilson. Council members, thank you for this hearing and this opportunity to speak. My name is Nick Petrillo. I live on the north side in Brighton Heights. I serve on the board of directors of the Brighton Heights RCO and as the land use chair. I will say the Brighton Heights Citizens Federation has not taken a position, so I'm here as just a citizen. Going back, someone else referenced this, one of the first planning commissioners of Pittsburgh, Morris Knowles, in 1923, before City Council adopted the first zoning code of our city, said, "Zoning is the application of common sense and fairness to the public regulations governing the use of private real estate. It seeks to make cities better places to live and work in." The legislation before you, reforming minimum lot sizes, is a good change to allow more housing. However, it doesn't go far enough. This council should pass the entirety of the housing needs assessment package, minimum lot sizes, parking reforms, legalized accessory dwelling units, and citywide inclusionary zoning. For example, multiple smaller vacant lots the city owns itself in Marshall Shadeland, just across the bridge from me, are zoned R2. This zoning change would allow a duplex to be built on them, but with the parking minimums, they would essentially need a 2-car garage on a lot that is less than 20 feet wide. So it still doesn't make it far enough. For ADUs, I don't know of any argument why I shouldn't be able to, say, use my garage or a basement for an apartment for my mother-in-law, or maybe for a young cousin who wants to come to Pittsburgh to go to college. Finally, inclusionary zoning. The elephant in the room, the cause of the 11-hour monstrosity of a planning commission meeting. I just want to be clear about my opinion on this. It doesn't matter how many studies are issued. The true answer is no one here knows if inclusionary zoning will create more or less housing units. But the argument about whether it will or not is the wrong argument. Inclusionary zoning is about whether the same building can house a Google engineer paid $200,000 and the person that cleans their house making $30,000. Paraphrasing again from 100 years ago, zoning is to make cities better places to live. Is Pittsburgh better with rich neighborhoods and poor neighborhoods? Or is it better if the children of PNC VPs and commonplace baristas can play together just outside their front door? That is the question I leave to you to answer. I urge you to pass all of the zoning amendments. Thank you again.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Allison Keating.
Hi, this is Allison Keating. I live in Manchester. I'm speaking in support, but also annoyance. like this has been pulled out because folks want to play, political games. I would rather not see that happen. Like there's like zero normal people at this hearing. like it's all folks who like deeply care about this issue, and we all agree that this needs to be done, and we should do it. And then they are just a room full of Democrats not really wanting to agree on how to agree on other things that they actually agree on, but just like want to argue about these really small differences that we have at the end of the day. Like let's, like every time I've spoken at a meeting like this, it's like, okay, do this, do more, do this, do more. Like, this is fine, whatever. But like, we do also need the whole package. Like yes, like several people have pointed out, like this will streamline permitting, and like that's cool. But like it doesn't actually actuate a lot of like the really more less expensive housing to build. That is like significantly less expensive to build than a single family home. It just simply does not actuate that, because it doesn't allow, it doesn't reduce the parking, that's the big killer. So cool, do it, and do more. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Cheryl Stevens.
Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Stevens. I'm the Community Organizing Manager with Pittsburghers for Public Transit, or PPT, and our office is located in Shadyside on Ellsworth Avenue. I'm speaking today regarding Councilmember Wilson's bill around minimum lot size, which mirrors the bill drafted by Councilwoman Warwick and which is already included in the Mayor's Housing Needs Assessment zoning package. Affordable housing matters to transit riders. Many of our members have been pushed out of the city of Pittsburgh and far more also away from quality transit they rely on to access food, their kids' schools, jobs, and the communities that they love and where their loved ones reside. I work with transit riders that have recently become homeless, others who have been stranded in communities where only a single transit route runs about every 70 minutes. This doesn't just affect our members, of course. We know that the scale of the crisis is staggering. The New York Post last week reported that rents have increased by 50% in Pittsburgh since 2019, outpacing every other major city. It will take a bold and comprehensive set of solutions to stop that harm, not just piecemeal policies. That is the point of the mayor's proposed zoning package, which is the product of years of research by our city planning staff in communication with other cities that have been successful in tackling the housing crisis. 7 months of public engagement and negotiations, an overwhelmingly recommendation by the Planning Commission after the 11-hour-long public hearing. The zoning package was built with great care to include developer incentives like the minimum lot size, right-sizing parking obligations, and density bonuses in order to ensure that affordability protections can be expanded in our city. While PPT supports minimum lot size reform, the housing package should not and cannot be stripped from the parts. We don't just need more housing, we need desegregated housing, accessible housing available to the most vulnerable among us, whose exodus from the city of Pittsburgh has been the result of policies that prioritize developers over our people. We cannot continue the same thought package through the passage of the minimum lot size legislation without concurrently adopting the policies like citywide inclusionary zoning that ensure that low-income people like our transit riders can afford to live here. I'm calling on council to stop delaying and to take up the discussion of the minimum lot size reform in concert with the rest of the aspects of the zoning amendments package and not through Councilmember Wilson's bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Our last registered speaker is Rebecca Ronaldo.
Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Rinaldo, and I live in the North Side's Perry North neighborhood in Council District 1. I am here to support Council Bill 1579, reforming minimum lot sizes, and to encourage Council to move swiftly to schedule a public hearing on the broader set of amendments designed by the city's planning department to more comprehensively address our outdated zoning code and our affordable housing crisis. Stable and affordable housing is not something I've had the luxury of ever taking for granted. Growing up poor, my family moved frequently, constantly chasing a cheaper rent so my parents could afford to pay for my brothers and me to play sports, get school clothes, or simply receive Christmas presents. Councilman Wilson, I know that you too come from a family with its own story of displacement, and I believe that you care about protecting affordability in your district and beyond. I thank you for the support that you've provided for me as I work to play my own part in preserving affordable housing in Pittsburgh's North Side. I support your effort to reform minimum lot sizes, but I question why you are stripping it out of the more comprehensive package of solutions that our planning department spent years under multiple administrations studying and developing. The housing crisis facing our city and nation needs bold, systems-level solutions, and the cities that are serious about addressing this crisis in a meaningful way are not doing it through piecemeal approaches. We need comprehensive solutions that we deliver at scale, not bills that are blessed by profit-motivated developers who are driven by their bottom lines, not by the greater good of our city's residents. The Housing Needs Assessment zoning package is this comprehensive approach. Our expert city planners have engaged people all over the city over several years to provide input, resulting in a thoughtfully crafted set of amendments that now await action by City Council. I urge Council to move swiftly and courageously to schedule a public hearing about this package. Please, do not strip this package into parts. Piecemeal approaches to this work undermine the cumulative effects that these reforms are meant to have. For example, the positive effects of the minimum lot size reform don't really function as well without also passing parking reforms. Let's make it easier to build housing in more neighborhoods while also working intentionally to desegregate our communities and ensure that new housing benefits Pittsburghers of all incomes. Let's show the working people who make this city run and the cities around the country that Pittsburgh is ready to lead. Thank you.
Thank you. And are there any speakers at this time that are not registered that would like to speak? You have 1 minute to speak.
Yeah, there are. Is it okay for me to introduce myself?
Yes, please. Same. It's just that you have 1 minute to speak for unregistered speakers.
Okay, thank you. My name is John Rhodes, and I live in Polish Hill. I serve as a board member of affordable housing nonprofit City of Bridges Community Land Trust, and I'm a member of the Housing Justice Table. I'm in support of this bill. I'm in support of this bill because I want our city and my neighborhood to be a more affordable, inclusive, and transit-friendly place. But right now, Pittsburgh is facing a crisis on all those fronts, and my neighborhood of Polish Hill is experiencing that firsthand. According to the U.S. Census, from 2012 to 2022, the median sale price in Polish Hill nearly quadrupled. Black residents decreased by 48%. Our population decreased by 11%. Housing units decreased by 13%, with rental units decreasing at twice the rate as owner-occupied homes. Yet apartments are 20 times more likely to have no car than owner-occupied homes. The evidence is clear. Under the current zoning, Polish Hill has become the smallest, most expensive, least diverse place it has ever been. I am in favor of removing barriers to building more housing because, as all the evidence shows, the more homes there are, the lower housing costs get. I support this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Yes, my name is Sandra Cole, and I'm here from the Greater Hazelwood community. So I'm speaking on behalf of the residents out in our community. Our community at this point is being gentrified, 100%. And there are families that have been in this community for decades. And right now, I'm in agreement for passing this bill, moving it forward, because it is important for our residents out in the community to be able to stay in the community. There are, like I said, there's like 4 generations of families that live out there, and they don't want to be, we don't want to end up like East Liberty. We don't want our people to be divided, having to go to different communities. We would like this bill to be passed as soon as possible. And let's think about the people instead of the brick and mortar all the time, because a lot of times we come and it's all about the brick and mortar. But make this about the people this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any more speakers that would wish to speak for this hearing? Any more speakers that wish to speak? If not, at this time I'd like to turn it over to council members. I see that we have 2 council members, and I do not know which one entered the room first. Our tradition of who enters the room first gets to speak first. So whoever starts speaking first, you win.
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you to everybody who came here today and for those who stuck around. I want to start by just talking a bit. I just did a quick, a little bit while folks were talking, while y'all were presenting, I did a quick Google search, so not comprehensive by any means, but just a quick Google search of some of our luxury, like apartment complexes around the city. Walnut Towers at Frick, that's in Squirrel Hill, that has 10 vacant units right now. The Glass House at Station Square is offering up to 1 month of free rent for leases starting by May 31st. Brewer's Block in Lawrenceville, also, leasing specials, limited time, right? So they've got vacancies. The Cork Factory in the Strip, again, leasing specials, limited time, right? That says vacancy to me. The Bricks on the south side, 3 of 26 units now available. The Commonwealth downtown, 6 of 19 units available immediately. Industry Pittsburgh in Shady Side, again, up to 1 month free rent if you sign up now. And Coda in East Liberty, also up to 1 month free rent if you sign up now. So that to me, and again, not comprehensive, but that to me sounds like vacancies in these luxury buildings. That sounds like empty apartments. And I can promise you that if these folks were to lower the rents in these luxury apartments to something that someone who makes $17 an hour can afford, they'd be filled immediately. So, it's not about a housing shortage, it is about an affordable housing shortage. So, again, thank you to everyone here, and everyone's so nice. I really appreciate all the thanks from the Pro Housing Pittsburgh folks. Thank you. Thank you. And I can get a little frustrated. But I still believe that for most of the membership, right, your intentions are good, right? I think you're nice people. I don't think you're bad people. I think your intentions are good. But I think that you have been brought into this national YIMBY movement that was started by tech companies and developers in the Bay Area to build luxury housing in San Francisco so that they could, and those same folks, those same developers back in 2018, 2019 saw in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh, in this neighborhood called Lawrenceville, and what was starting to do inclusionary zoning. Let's get on it. YIMBY, let's get on it. Let's find somebody who's from Pittsburgh, who has worked for one of our tech companies. Let's enlist him to go, a salesperson, to go back to Pittsburgh and to sell our vision and our Kool-Aid to you. That is what I think. And I understand that that feels hurtful to a lot of you, but and here's what bothers me, is y'all talk a lot about black people, and you talk about, when he's leaving, you talk about our racist zoning code. In a recent forum that I went to, you gave me a copy of Richard Rothstein's The Color of Law that talks about segregation and redlining. Yet in spite of all the good faith efforts to require building by building desegregation, right, via inclusionary zoning, a very modest 10% of units in projects of 20 units or more, despite my good faith efforts, as has been noted here, to sit down and have meetings with you guys and figure out together with our, and it wasn't just pro-housing, right? Architects, developers, our city planning folks, to figure out a way so you could build more, right? Build more, build higher, do all these things. This was a good faith effort. This was a good faith effort to try and get us to a place where this developer community be like, okay, how can we, really just make 100% sure that we can cover that 10% of units. And, throughout all of this, the YIMBY movement, which is made up for the most part of, relative high earners, uses the language of oppression to talk about themselves, uses black people to talk about themselves, co-opting like yard signs that were created back in the George Floyd era to uplift black lives, and co-opting that artwork to sort of push your own movement. I've even gotten emails. I got an email recently that referred to, and I'm not kidding about this, and I referred to the folks who were coming to Pittsburgh because of the fires. A fire, by the way, that the house that my mother lived in Altadena before she moved here burned to the ground. A house that she rented, she didn't own, she rented. Talked about how the people coming to Pittsburgh from California are climate refugees. Climate refugees. People coming from the Silicon Valley and working for tech companies coming to Pittsburgh because it's an affordable city and wanting to build more luxury housing, referring to themselves as climate refugees. There's a blog. I do read your stuff sometimes. I know you guys like to say I don't read your stuff. I do. I read it sometimes. A blog by John Salmons, if I'm pronouncing that right, from October 6th, criticizing the mayor's IZ proposal. In this blog, he writes, essentially, that requiring affordable housing incentivizes poor people to, quote, limit their job search and is a, quote, poverty trap. He writes that it discourages parents from getting married and hurts children. And then finally, he says that it reduces Pittsburgh's tax base. Now, you probably aren't old enough, or some of you may be old enough to remember the Reagan era, 1980s, sort of, helping poor people just encourages them to stay poor rhetoric. But that is what this is. It is recycled, trickle-down economics. And the reality is that developers and landlords could fill every vacant unit by just lowering the rents or accepting vouchers. And I know we talk about how, housing authority, they're a little rough around the edges. I get it, right? There's work to be done there. But for me, all of this puts together to a reality of luxury buildings in which folks don't really want to live next to poor and working class people. And that is why, not because of profits, because your units are empty. They're sitting empty while people are being pushed out of the city. Anyway, so where are we now? Oh, and on top of all of it, all the talk of the racist zoning code. And this group not only supports, but apparently helped write Councilman Charlin's IZ bill that actually says that we should allow communities to decide whether or not they want to have affordable housing in their neighborhoods. That is like literally what our racist zoning code was designed to do, to let communities decide whether or not folks of color could live in their communities. And that is what Councilperson Charlin's bill does. So, where are we now? All right. You know, the mayor and city planning's housing needs assessment, right, had all this good stuff in it, all these good incentives, you know, minimum lot size reform, parking reform, ADU stuff. There's some other pieces around transit-oriented development, maybe it's separate, but all, you know, in one package so that we could also do this, you know, build more housing and, you know, require that on big projects, 10%, just a very modest 10%, are made affordable. It's a good package, and if folks have said this is, you know, a recommendation that has been, you know, lots of process has gone into this and expertise. So what has happened? Councilman Wilson carved out the juiciest incentive, the ones that the developers wanted the most, right, which is the minimum lot size reform. So Councilman Wilson has taken that one out and is, you know, putting it in front of us now. Councilman Charlin introduced his bill and has now held it for 4 months to block the mayor's IZ until after the election in the hopes that, you know, their candidate who, you know, is anti-IZ even, or he's pro-IZ as long as neighborhoods get to pick whether or not they have affordable housing. So Councilman Charlin has held this for 120 days, so, you know, we're stuck for 4 months. Strasburger, Wilson, Kale, Coghill all voted with him to do that, right? During the hearing, you know, the last hearing, we heard about Councilman Charlin's campaign donations from developers. We know how much developers are pouring into this mayoral election, obscene amounts of money. I don't know about the rest of my fellow council members. I don't know. And I don't know what's going to happen with inclusionary zoning. I don't. I would just say, for the public, as with most things in politics, follow the money, and you will figure out what is really going on and who, unfortunately, so many of your elected representatives represent. And with that, I do need to get home. So I'm going to leave you with.
All right, thanks. Councilman Charlin.
Thank you. So I just want to thank everyone that was here today. I want to thank planning staff for presenting. To remind everyone, we're here. I know we just heard a bunch of other things, but we are here to talk about minimum lot size, which is something that I support, and I think most of the council does as well. Just want to thank you for having us see this one through. So, thank you.
Thank you, and thanks everyone who came out and shared their thoughts today. So this bill is about fixing a long-standing issue in our zoning code that made it harder to build housing in a lot of our neighborhoods. So too many lots across Pittsburgh don't meet the minimum size rules. So even though homes have existed on them for decades, that's created barriers to new housing and added red tape where it's just not needed. So these changes, and I'm kind of embarrassed that when I first got in, that this wasn't the #1 thing that I worked on, because these changes bring our code in line with how neighborhoods were actually built. They make it easier to use vacant land and support the kind of small-scale development we need, housing that's It's housing that's realistic and attainable for working families in Pittsburgh. So I know this was originally part of a bigger zoning package, but this is ready. It's been studied, vetted, and quite frankly, it's been presented with a lot of public input, and we don't need to hold it back while other pieces get figured out. So when I introduced attached housing bill to make zoning work better for affordability, I wasn't told to wait for a bigger package, and we didn't. We moved forward, we made that change that helps people. So we should do the same here. A chance to solve a clear problem with a clean fix. So let's not stall this progress just because not every piece is ready. This reform also directly supports the work we're doing with the Pittsburgh Land Bank. We've got thousands of vacant and abandoned lots across the city, and many sitting idle because zoning rules are too restrictive. This bill helps us recycle that land, get it back into productive use, and put it back on the tax rolls. That's more important than ever, especially as we see real estate tax revenue falling downtown. We need to grow our tax base in our neighborhoods, and this is a smart, practical way to do it. I support this bill, and I hope my colleagues join me in moving this forward. So thanks everyone for coming today. And without any further comments from members, Councilman Charlie, have any further comments?
Nope, I think we've heard enough.
All right, thanks for staying till the end, and thank you everyone else who stayed to the end. This public hearing is adjourned.